Hey guys! Today we're diving into another truly horrifying case. If you want to support my channel, make sure to subscribe and stay active. It really helps me out. I'd be super grateful for that. Let's get started. Relationships, whether friendly, familial, romantic, or professional, are an essential part of human life. Unfortunately, not all of them turn out to be positive. In fact, some can be deeply destructive, leaving long-lasting emotional and physical scars. This is a chilling case that began as a romance between a well-known dentist and her coworker. From the start, their relationship showed signs of instability. The couple broke up and got back together numerous times over nearly 5 years. Despite the emotional roller coaster, the woman remained hopeful, giving the relationship chance after chance. But in truth, the man never really let her go. He used every method at his disposal: emotional manipulation, pressure, and psychological control to keep her within his reach. When she finally found the courage to take control of her life and told him she was moving on for good, it set off a chain of events that would have devastating consequences. By standing up for herself and seeking a fresh start, she unknowingly sealed her fate. Preeti Reddy was born on October 19, 1986, in the bustling Indian city of Pimpri Chinchwad, situated along the Pavana River. She was the elder of 2 daughters born to Narasimha and Sharita Reddy, both respected and highly accomplished medical professionals who ran a successful private practice. The family lived comfortably, thanks to the steady and substantial income her parents earned. Preeti grew up alongside her younger sister, Nithya, who was 4 years her junior. From an early age, the sisters formed a deep bond and were practically inseparable. They shared everything, from childhood secrets to dreams and struggles, always supporting each other unconditionally. Their parents raised them in a loving, nurturing environment, instilling strong cultural values and a deep respect for family. Education was a priority in the Reddy household, and the girls were given every opportunity to succeed. As financially secure individuals, Narasimha and Sharita never hesitated to invest in their daughter's well-being and future. In 1996, the Reddy family made a life-changing decision. They moved to Australia, seeking better opportunities and a brighter future. They settled in a peaceful suburb of Sydney, purchasing a spacious home that quickly became their sanctuary. Preeti and Nithya were enrolled in a prestigious private school where both excelled academically. Preeti blossomed into a bright, beautiful, and charismatic young woman. She was friendly, sociable, and driven. From a young age, she had dreams of following in her parents' footsteps by pursuing a career in healthcare. Helping others came naturally to her, and she found genuine joy in making a difference. After graduating high school, Preeti made a surprising choice. She decided to return to India to study dentistry at a medical university in New Delhi. Her parents, supportive as ever, trusted her judgment and gave her the freedom to make her own decisions. By 2019, Preeti had completed her degree and returned to Sydney, where she moved back in with her family. She began working at the Hurstville Dental and Physiotherapy Centre in Western Sydney, while simultaneously advancing her skills at the Royal Dental Hospital in Melbourne. Later, she joined the team at Glenbrook Dental, a comprehensive care clinic where she served as a general practitioner. Highly skilled and deeply passionate about her work, Dr. Reddy was known among her peers and patients as a rising star in her field. She was constantly learning, growing, and refining her expertise. In early 2019, just before a life-altering incident, she was taking specialized courses in dental implants and had aspirations of opening her own clinic in Melbourne. Tragically, those dreams would never come to pass. In 2013, while Preeti was still studying at the Royal Dental Hospital in Melbourne, she met a fellow young dentist named Harshwardhan, known as Harshi to his friends, Nard. Like Preeti, he was of Indian descent and came from a family of healthcare professionals. Following in his family's footsteps, Harshi had also chosen a career in dentistry. The two quickly found common ground, and a mutual attraction developed almost instantly. A few months into their acquaintance, they began dating, but from the outset, the relationship had some troubling signs. Harshi had a possessive and temperamental nature. He often questioned Preeti's actions, played on her emotions, and exerted control over her through subtle manipulation. He also chipped away at her confidence, making her feel inadequate or inferior. Nithya, Preeti's younger sister, was the first to notice that something wasn't right. She was aware that Preeti was seeing someone, but her sister never introduced him to the family. Preeti never brought him to their home and avoided talking about him in any detail. At the same time, Preeti's behavior began to change. She became withdrawn, insecure, and distant. The spark in her eyes seemed to fade. Once a joyful and confident woman, she now appeared constantly on edge, as if she were living under emotional pressure. Harshi was setting the terms of their relationship, and Preeti seemed trapped within them. Their parents repeatedly asked to meet the man in her life, but Preeti would always deflect the conversation, change the subject, or refuse outright. It was clear that she was deeply uncomfortable in the relationship, yet emotionally tethered to Harshi and unable to break free. Harshi lived in Tamworth and worked at a local dental clinic. His relationship with Preeti was essentially long distance, as they never lived together. He often pushed her to move in with him, even pressuring her at times, but Preeti consistently declined. Something in her gut told her it wouldn't end well. Their relationship was anything but stable. Frequent arguments and emotional tension became the norm, and Preeti constantly felt under pressure. For a long time, she told no one about their relationship. It was only about 6 months in that she confided in a few close friends and her sister. Nithya saw Harshi a few times and took an immediate dislike to him. Later, she would recall that there was something unsettling and off-putting about his presence. By 2014, Preeti and Harshi were appearing in public together, and their relationship was no longer a secret. Still, she never introduced him to her parents, nor did she agree to meet his family. Shortly after that, the couple split up, but Preeti kept it to herself. This pattern of breaking up and reconciling continued over the years. Sometimes she wouldn't tell anyone they had broken up, and other times she wouldn't admit they were back together. It became evident that she was embarrassed by the unstable dynamic, a relationship marked by intense arguments followed by equally emotional reconciliations. Harshi often accused Preeti of not putting enough effort into their relationship and repeatedly insisted that she move to Tamworth so they could live together. Preeti, however, was firm. She didn't want to give up her career or leave her family in Sydney. Meanwhile, Harshi had no intention of relocating for her either. In the fall of 2016, Preeti and Harshi broke up once again. This time, Preeti hoped it was truly over. But Harshi clearly wasn't ready to let go. In October, he began planning a surprise party for her upcoming 30th birthday. However, the surprise never happened. Preeti had already arranged a celebration at her parents' home, inviting close friends and colleagues, but pointedly leaving her former partner off the guest list. Even after this clear signal, Harshi kept trying to reinsert himself into her life. He begged her for another chance, promising he had changed and things would be different. While he had never resorted to physical aggression, his persistent emotional pressure had left deep marks. Perhaps that absence of overt harm is what convinced Preeti to give him one last chance, hoping for a new beginning. But things didn't get better. Preeti still carried emotional feelings for Harshi, which made cutting ties even harder. On top of that, he manipulated her emotions, making her feel guilty for the relationship's failure. He'd often say that she was the reason he was struggling and that she was causing him pain. In 2018, Preeti made one final effort to salvage their relationship. But soon, she realized that no matter how much she tried or sacrificed, Things were not going to improve. That fall, she ended it for good. And just a few weeks later, in November, she met a young physician from Melbourne. Their connection was instant and sincere. This new man was everything Harshi wasn't: kind, attentive, compassionate. For the first time in years, Preeti didn't hide her relationship. She proudly introduced him to her family and friends. She looked genuinely happy, filled with hope for the future. Marriage and starting a family became real possibilities in her mind. She even began planning a move to Melbourne to be closer to him. She started applying for jobs in the area, and prestigious dental centers were quick to respond. After multiple offers, she selected a clinic where she hoped to transfer after wrapping up her responsibilities in Sydney. In December, she told her friends she had never felt this way before and that it felt like she had finally let go of the past. Her loved ones were thrilled to see her so content, but the happiness was short-lived. In January, Harshi learned about Preeti's new relationship. Consumed by jealousy and resentment, he started reaching out to her again, calling, messaging, and trying to meet with her. But Preeti had made up her mind. She ignored every attempt he made. By February, during a phone call with his brother, Harshi revealed that he couldn't accept what he saw as betrayal. He referred to Preeti as if she still belonged to him and viewed her new relationship as a personal offense. He said he wouldn't allow her to marry someone else, and hinted that he was prepared to take drastic action. At the time, it sounded like nothing more than bitter, empty threats made out of frustration and helplessness. On March 1st, 2019, Sydney hosted a 2-day international dental conference featuring cutting-edge practices in dentistry. Among the attendees were Dr. Preeti Reddy and her ex-boyfriend, Dr. Harshwardhan Nard. Preeti stayed at the Urban Hotel, the conference venue, sharing a room with 2 close friends and colleagues. Harshi was booked at the Swissôtel just a few blocks away. After the first day wrapped up, Preeti confided in her friends that she felt uneasy. Harshi was watching her intently all over the conference, waiting for an opportunity to strike up a conversation. His behavior was making her uncomfortable, seeming unpredictable. That evening, the girls decided to unwind at a nightclub. But even there, Preeti appeared on edge, constantly glancing over her shoulder. The second day brought even more tension. Harshi shadowed her steps, insisting they meet and talk. Preeti felt torn and anxious, and her friends begged her not to give in. Despite their warnings, once the conference ended, Preeti reluctantly agreed to speak with Harshi. She hoped they could settle things and that he'd finally let her move on. She had rehearsed her words carefully, praying he'd hear her, end the drama, and allow her to move forward with her life. Around 6:30 p.m. on March 2nd, surveillance footage captured a gray Volkswagen Golf, Preeti's car, exiting the Urban Hotel's underground garage. Preeti was behind the wheel, and Harshi sat beside her. Roughly an hour later, the pair arrived at the Ravissant restaurant and walked in together. Multiple witnesses, other guests and restaurant staff, later recalled that tension at their table was palpable. Preeti appeared visibly anxious, eager to leave, while Harshi tried to grab her hand and kept interrupting whenever she spoke. The waiter serving their table remembered that Preeti had mentioned moving to Melbourne, admitted she was in love with someone else, and asked Harshi to let her go. But he seemed oblivious. Instead, he kept talking about marriage and promised to move to Sydney just to be near her. By about 10:30 p.m., the couple left the restaurant and walked back to the car, but didn't get in. They argued right there for more than an hour. Harshi tried to hug her, but Preeti rejected him and stepped away. The pair finally drove off, close to midnight. For 15 more minutes, they drove through the city before pulling into a mall parking lot. No one exited the car. Surveillance footage mounted on the building's wall captured them engaged in a heated argument, Harshi gesturing wildly while Preeti was visibly crying. Around 2 a.m., Priti left the car and went into a 24-hour fast food restaurant inside the mall. She purchased a bottle of water and lingered near the entrance, apparently waiting for Harshi to leave. But when she came back, he was still sitting in the car. They drove on to the Swissôtel, where Harshi had a room. He escorted Priti past the front desk in silence and into his suite around 3 a.m. She never left after that. On the morning of March 3rd, at about 10 a.m., Priti called her younger sister, saying she'd be home in a couple of hours. 5 minutes later, she rang Harshi, telling him she loved him and that they'd soon be together. That was the last time anyone heard from Priti. Priti's family expected her home by lunchtime, but she never arrived. Her phone was off, which was extremely unusual. By 3 p.m., panic started to set in. Priti was always in touch and would let someone know if she was running late. Her family immediately began calling her friends and co-workers, trying to figure out where she might be. As the day wore on with no sign of her, anxiety turned into fear. It was then that they learned she had been seen at the conference with her ex, Harshwardhan Narde, who had reportedly been trying to reconnect and wouldn't leave her alone. Nithya tried calling Harshi, but he either declined her calls or didn't pick up, despite his phone still being active. That evening, March 3rd, the Reddy family went to the police and filed a missing person report, making it clear that they suspected her former boyfriend might be involved. At the same time, they launched their own search, contacting everyone who might have seen or spoken with Priti. Nithya also created several posts on social media, sharing recent photos and asking the public for any information that could help find her sister. Within 24 hours, the posts had reached nearly 2,000 people, including Dr. Reddy's former patients. Many offered to help in the search or spread the word, but no one had solid information about her whereabouts. The only lead was Harshi, who still wasn't returning calls. On March 4th, in the afternoon, Harshi finally answered one of Nithya's calls. His response was disturbingly calm. He said Priti was a grown woman and would turn up soon. He admitted seeing her at the conference, but claimed they had only exchanged a few words before parting ways. Strangely, just an hour later, Harshi called Nithya back, this time furious. He shouted at her, demanding to know why she had contacted his friends, relatives, and co-workers, asking questions about Priti. He accused the Reddy family of unfairly blaming him and damaging his reputation without any evidence. His behavior raised serious red flags. He didn't seem concerned about Priti's sudden disappearance or the possibility that she could be in danger. What upset him more was the fact that people were actively looking for her and that attention was being directed at him. Once it became clear that Priti had agreed to meet Harshi for dinner, he was likely the last person to see her. Her family insisted he go to the police and give a full statement before being formally summoned. Later that day, Harshi traveled to Sydney and walked into the police station, claiming he wanted to help and was ready to share what he knew. Officers immediately noticed his erratic behavior. He was sweating, visibly nervous, pacing, and gesturing uncontrollably. He admitted to seeing Priti not only at the conference, but also for dinner on March 2nd. According to him, they had a final conversation, brought closure to their relationship, and then he called her a cab. That was, he claimed, the last time he saw her. But his story had inconsistencies. When asked to recount the events again, he became confused, contradicted himself, and struggled to maintain the same version of the timeline. Despite the strange behavior, police had nothing concrete to hold Harshi on, so he was released. Before leaving, though, a detective casually mentioned that they were reviewing surveillance footage that might show the movements of both Priti and Harshi that evening. The goal was to reconstruct the timeline in detail. That statement seemed to rattle Harshi. Just a few hours later, he returned to the station, now altering his account. He admitted he hadn't called a cab for Pretty. She had driven herself in her own car, the same Volkswagen Golf they had taken to the restaurant. When asked why he'd initially given false information, he claimed he was just nervous and didn't think those details would matter. Later that same day, March 4th, news broke about a serious car crash on the New England highway. A BMW had crossed over into oncoming traffic at high speed and collided head-on with a truck. The driver was pronounced dead at the scene. The victim was identified as Dr. Harshwardhan Nard. But how did he end up in such a catastrophic wreck on a mostly empty road? Surveillance footage revealed that Harshi had suddenly accelerated and intentionally driven into the truck's path. The incident appeared to be a case of self-harm, and that theory was soon supported by other evidence. It was clear the detective's mention of surveillance footage had deeply shaken him. Harshi likely realized that investigators would soon piece together the entire evening, where he and Pretty had gone, who had seen them, and that she'd accompanied him to his hotel room and never come out. The day after Harshi's passing, Preeti's missing Volkswagen Golf was found abandoned in a quiet residential neighborhood on Sydney's outskirts. Inside the trunk, stuffed into a large blue suitcase, was her lifeless body. Forensic investigators later confirmed that she had suffered a severe head injury and multiple stab wounds, 11 in total, primarily to her neck and back. 2 days later, with security footage and witness interviews compiled, police were able to reconstruct what had happened. On March 2nd, Pretty agreed to meet Harshi for dinner, likely hoping to find closure and put their relationship behind her. A waiter overheard fragments of their conversation and recalled that Preeti seemed distressed and frightened. After dinner, the couple drove around for hours before ending up at the hotel where Harshi was staying. It's believed that he manipulated her emotionally, something he'd done before, causing her to feel guilty. She may have gone along hoping to calm things down, explain herself, and finally move on. Since she was never seen leaving the hotel, detectives concluded that the tragic act likely occurred inside the room. A forensic sweep revealed traces of blood in the bathroom, although it had been cleaned so thoroughly that the housekeeping staff noticed nothing unusual. It's believed that Preeti stepped into the bathroom to call her new partner. Harshi, overhearing the call, may have been pushed over the edge. Once she ended the call, he allegedly attacked her from behind in a fit of rage, striking her head, then inflicting multiple wounds with a sharp object. After the act, Harshi calmly cleaned himself up, walked to the front desk, and extended his stay for another night. He then had breakfast in the hotel restaurant before going shopping at local stores. He purchased a large blue suitcase, along with several types of cleaning supplies, and returned to the hotel room. Around 5 p.m., he checked out. When asked if he needed help with his luggage, a staff member noted the suitcase seemed unusually heavy. Harshi casually replied that he had bought too many gifts for family. He loaded everything into Pretty's Volkswagen Golf and drove to the edge of the city, where he left the car in an inconspicuous corner of a quiet neighborhood, assuming it would go unnoticed for a while. After everything that had happened, Harshi retrieved his BMW from the parking garage and began driving back to his home in Tamworth. Along the way, he stopped at a gas station, filled up his tank, and grabbed a coffee. Several witnesses later identified him there. They recalled that his phone kept ringing repeatedly, but he either declined the calls or ignored them altogether. It was later confirmed that those calls were from Nithya, who was desperately trying to reach him while searching for her sister. Harshi likely believed he had pulled off the perfect crime, erased every trace, and covered his tracks so thoroughly that investigators wouldn't be able to link him to anything. Even if they did, he was confident they wouldn't be able to prove it. What he hadn't accounted for was the presence of surveillance cameras at nearly every location he and Pretty had visited that day. Those recordings would soon expose the truth. When Harshi realized his mistake, that within days police would have undeniable evidence of his involvement, he chose not to wait for an arrest or trial. Instead, he took matters into his own hands, ending his life before justice could be served. Despite the growing pile of evidence, Harshi's family refused to believe he could be capable of such a horrific act. They struggled to accept the possibility that he had ended someone else's life in such a brutal and calculated manner. The Reddy family, devastated by the loss of their beloved daughter and sister, took action. They launched an initiative to establish the first center in Australia dedicated to helping women affected by domestic aggression. More than just offering emotional support, the center would provide safe shelter, legal guidance, and assistance to those trying to escape controlling or harmful relationships. The Reddy family not only helped fund the project, but also used their voices to raise public awareness. Through media coverage and outreach efforts, they ensured that those in need would know there was a place to turn, a place offering both protection and a path to healing. Thanks for watching, everyone. Your support means a lot to me, and you can help my channel grow by hitting that like button, dropping a comment, and sharing this video. Your engagement really makes a difference. See you soon.